Hey guys, this video covers 7.1 causes of the Great Depression, explores 1, 2, 3, and 6. So let's get started. The first question is, what did the United States enjoy after World War I? Well, the United States enjoyed a period of growth after World War I. What do we mean by that? Well, things grew. What things? Businesses. More businesses. The businesses were there, expanded, new businesses started. With both of those things comes more jobs, so the growth of jobs. And with the growth of business and jobs like that, money grows as well. So Americans were making and spending more money than they ever had before. Question 2. What is GNP and what happened to it after World War I? Well, GNP is called Gross National Product. And that's a measure of the value or worth of everything that's produced in the United States, whether it's a good like iPhones or a service like a restaurant, okay? And what happened to the GNP after World War I is that it greatly increased or stayed the same. There was no decrease in GNP. So as GNP ramps up, that is one measure that the economy is in good shape, and it was. Okay. However, question number 3, although the United States experienced growth and prosperity during the 1920s, it was built on shaky ground. What 4 things were trouble waiting to happen? Well, there were 4 things. 1, drastic inequalities of wealth, meaning some people had a lot of money and a lot of people didn't have much money at all. Okay. What else? Another thing that meant there was trouble on the horizon, other than unequal distribution of wealth, consumer debt, a lot of it. Americans borrowed a lot of money to buy a lot of stuff that they didn't have the money for, so they borrowed the money, got loans, purchased stuff. Who else was in debt? Farmers were in a crazy amount of debt too. So with 2 mentions of crazy amounts of debt, lenders or banks they're the creditors in that situation, and this was another thing that showed trouble on the horizon. Overextended banks. They just frankly loaned out way too much money. Okay, they loaned out way too much money, and you've come to the we've loaned too much money out when a lot of those loans aren't paid back, and that was going to happen. All right, off to explore 2. Question number 4. It's just to fill in the blank. Uneven distribution of wealth during the 1920s would become an important cause of economic catastrophe or disaster of the 1930s. We just talked about this above, but what does unequal wealth distribution mean? Unequal wealth distribution means money wasn't shared equally. Some people had way more money than others. All right, here's just a heading. The Great Depression was a period of severe economic decline in the United States and many other countries around the world. Question number 6. I wanted to hear the 2 ways the nation's unequal wealth distribution contributed to the Great Depression. And the 2 ways are overproduction and credit. You know something's overproduced when that something can't be sold. Okay, this was at a period of time where it was as easy as it's ever been to produce stuff in America. Industrialization had already occurred. There was factories galore, machines galore, so we could pump out a ton of stuff. Too much stuff. Okay, people weren't buying all of those things. So that stuff that had been in demand was now just piling up, and people weren't buying it. The businesses were losing money because people weren't buying as much as they were producing, so they had to cut wages, which hurt people, which made them less able to buy the stuff. And if they didn't cut wages even more drastically, they might fire people or lay people off, which made the situation even worse. All right, so overproduction. Too much stuff was produced. Too much credit. Too much loans were given out. Americans were buying tons of stuff with other people's money. That was fine as long as you can pay it back, but when unemployment increased, so did the ability. When unemployment increased, so did the inability of Americans to repay their loans. All right, so overproduction and credit. Off to explore 3, question number 7. Explain why farmers went bankrupt. All right, this is a longer story. World War I, American farmers were making bank. Everything they could grow, they could sell, either to America or to European countries at war. All right? So they were making tons of money. Their stuff was in high demand. So that meant their stuff was very valuable. So they were getting a lot of money for their stuff. So they had something in mind. You know what? Let's expand. Let's grow. Pun intended. They wanted to grow their farms. How do you do that? You buy land. You buy more equipment. You hire more help. How do you do that? You borrow money to do it. So farmers look to take advantage of the high demand situation where they borrowed a bunch of money to grow their farm. Okay. Then something bad happened. And by bad, I mean good, but bad and good. The war ended, all right? So the demand for American farm products went down. As demand went down, so did the value of that farm product. So the farm products or crops that they could grow and sell, they weren't getting as much money for, okay? So those loans they had taken out to expand their farm practice were coming due, and they weren't making enough money to make those payments. It was a bad situation. Question number 8, when these farmers went bankrupt and could not repay their loans to the banks, many of the banks went out of business, okay? What follows now is just a screenshot of something from a previous assignment that talks about buying stock and how buying stock on margin is riskier. So let's finish this up. All right, Explore 6, Black Tuesday, what happened on October 29th, 1929, and what impacts did it have? The stock market collapsed. What does that mean? People rushed to sell their stocks because the value of stocks were going down. This made the value of stocks go further down, making more people want to sell their stocks, forcing prices further down, making more people want to sell their stocks until it just reached the floor, okay? So the impact it had is investors, people that had owned stock in the stock market, lost millions of dollars. And sometimes you lost not your money. If you had purchased the stock on margin, you were losing someone else's money that you still had to pay back. Why did many banks fail, and what impacts did it have? Well, they ran out of money. Either they had loaned a bunch of it out and weren't getting paid back, or what we're going to see in the next assignment or two, is that people had rushed to get their money out of the bank. They didn't trust banks, so there were people rushing into the bank to take their money out. The bank had already loaned a bunch of money out, and that wasn't coming back, so banks failed, okay? And when banks failed, depositors lost their money forever. If your money was in the bank and that bank failed, your money was gone. All right, so that finishes 7.1. Please tune into 7.2, Life During the Great Depression. Thank you very much.